Good morning. Campbell McCrary here, Amvest Capital. Welcome to the Amvest Capital Inc. live webinar with Blue Sky Uranium. Blue Sky trades on the venture as BSK and as BKUCF on the OTCQB. We really do hope you'll enjoy today's program. It will be available in on-demand about 2 hours after we wrap up here. And we would love to have your questions sent in. So please ask questions of management, highlighting the management question thing to send in questions. Amvest is a New York-based specialist investment management and corporate finance firm focused solely on the natural resource space. As I've shown this before, please note this call is it's definitely for informational purposes only, and is no solicitation or opinion rendered. With that, I'm very pleased to have Nico Kakos, President and CEO of Blue Sky, and Guillermo Pensado, Vice President of Exploration and Development. Welcome to the show, Nico and Guillermo. You have the floor, and we'll see you in 15, 20 minutes, and we'll shoot some questions at you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Campbell. Thank you for having us on your webinar once again. We're pleased to be here. Like Campbell said, my name is Nico Kakos. I'm the President and CEO of Blue Sky Uranium. Now, Blue Sky, just as an overview before we get into the deep details of the presentation, is an advanced exploration company in uranium-vanadium in Argentina. But what sets us, I believe, apart from all our peers is that we're not focused solely on a single deposit, but in a discovery and a development of an entire new district that has the potential to rank amongst the largest uranium districts in the world with some of the lowest operating costs, very similar to what we see in Kazakhstan, which is one of the world's largest suppliers of low-cost uranium. Here you'll see our disclaimer and cautionary language. There will be some forward-looking statements, so for those looking at this later, I do encourage you to read this in detail. Now, overall, the uranium market. For those who are not quite aware, the uranium market has been on fire recently. We've seen the price of uranium going significantly up. We're seeing some big long-term trends here, whereby the demand is outstripping supply. There are other factors also playing in that, and I'll touch on that later on in the presentation. Also, Argentina, where we're working, also has a need for uranium because it imports all its needs. I think that sets up Blue Sky for a very unique business opportunity, and we'll talk about that a little later too. The project itself, Amarillo Grande, is right now already has a deposit on there, just under 23 million pounds of uranium and 11.5 million pounds of vanadium. What's key is that it's open for expansion, and there are many targets throughout the property. As this, like I said at the outset, this is an entire district. It spans over 145 kilometers in length by 50 kilometers in wide. It truly is an enormous project. And you know, like I keep saying, it has the potential, and we've demonstrated that, and we'll talk about that, to rank amongst the largest, has the potential to become among one of the largest uranium districts in the world with some of the lowest operating costs. Here's a map of Argentina depicting the location of the Amarillo Grande. Amarillo Grande is located in the northern part of Patagonia in the province of Rio Negro. It's the big, large yellow blob there. It's over 300,000 hectares of property, so it really is extremely large. The team that's managing Blue Sky is the Grosso Group. The Grosso Group has what it takes to be successful in Argentina. They have a very successful track record. We've been active in Argentina since back in 1993, almost 30 years, have made 4 major discoveries, 2 of which are currently still in production. One, the Navidad, still remains the world's largest undeveloped silver project, and Amarillo Grande is the 4th big discovery, and you'll see, well, that's the topic of our discussion today. Joe Grosso, who's the president and founder of Grosso Group, is a pioneer in mining exploration in Argentina. He's been inducted in Argentina's Mining Hall of Fame. extremely well known, gives Blue Sky a true competitive advantage in operating in that country. So that's of course important whenever you operate in a country outside of your own. Also on the presentation here with us today is Guillermo Pensado, who's our VP of Exploration. Guillermo is a specialist in uranium and having worked with Cameco, and also is an award-winning geologist, having won Exploration Geologist of the Year just a couple of years ago. And then lastly, I'd like to talk a little bit about Chuck Edwards. Chuck is a mining processing engineer and metallurgist. He was a chief metallurgist for Cameco for many, many years, extremely well known worldwide, and he's been the one that's been doing all the metallurgy and processing test work for Amarillo Grande. Now, looking back at uranium, we see that the demand for uranium is outstripping supply, and that's been happening over the last 2 or 3 years now, and that's why we're seeing an increase in the price of uranium. But there's a couple other factors that have been really playing on this. Increasing the demand side have been a number of funds, including recently the Sprott Uranium Fund, which are going to the spot market, and they buy up the uranium, so it forces global, nuclear reactors to have to negotiate long-term contracts, which will have the effect of increasing the long-term price up. And the supply has been constrained because, well, when the price goes up, you can't just turn the switch on and get a uranium mine going. Normally, it takes a long time. And second of all, a lot of the larger uranium companies like Kazatomprom have been reducing their production. I believe there's up to 20% of their supply capability that they're keeping in the ground. So all these factors are having an exacerbating effect on the price of uranium, and we're seeing the effects of that right now as the uranium price is beginning to skyrocket. Production of uranium, where is uranium produced around the world? We see that Kazakhstan is definitely the largest player, and that has to do, of course, because they have the ability to produce it cheaply. And then that's followed by Canada, Australia, and Namibia, and then other countries. And I think Blue Sky is going to soon put Argentina on this pie chart. And the pricing for uranium, uranium isn't priced like other commodities. Most of the price is negotiated contract, the long-term contract between a uranium mine and a nuclear reactor. And that usually has this premium, and we're beginning to see the demand for that beginning to increase, as well as a lot of the previous long-term contracts coming to expire. So it's forcing a lot of the nuclear reactors and utilities to come in and negotiate new prices. So this is going to be an ongoing thing that's going to continue. Plus, as more nuclear reactors are being built around the world, I believe this is going to continue to have an increasing price on uranium for some time to come. And as I said in the outset, Argentina itself is a nuclear country. Argentina has 3 nuclear power plants in operations. They've got 1 under construction. They've got additional ones that are planning. Argentina plans to become a major nuclear power, to be in a position to be able to export nuclear energy throughout South America. They're involved in every facet of the nuclear industry, except, of course, for the production of uranium. And this is where Blue Sky fits in as Argentina's largest and most advanced uranium deposit. We plan to hopefully be in a position where we could be the first supplier for domestic uranium in Argentina, and then be a net exporter from there on. And this brings us to the Amarillo Grande project. And to walk you through this, I'm going to pass the microphone over to Guillermo. Guillermo?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming to this presentation. And I will try to give you a quick explanation about the potentiality of this project and why it's so unique from the technical point of view, as Nico mentioned before. As you can see, this is the rig in the middle of the project. That blue sky, beautiful blue sky in the northern part of Patagonia, and the flat area, this is the typical area where we are working. So that is good example of the good area for uranium exploration. This project, which in fact represents a district, was initially discovered by the company back in 2006, and following an intensive exploration program, the company was advancing, recognizing more and more uranium mineralization on surface, discovering first Santa Barbara in the northern part, following with the discovery of ANIT, almost 15-kilometer airborne radiometric anomaly, well seen in the middle, as you can see in this map, going to the south in the Ivana sector, with all those anomalies that you can see that finally was the area where Ivana Deposit was discovered in 2017 when the company started an intensive RC drilling program that in just a couple of years we could advance in the delineation of a potential deposit and the initial preliminary economic assessment. So talking about the area, as mentioned before, this is an area, flat area in the central part of Rio Negro province, well apart from any city or community, with very low rainfalls, area where you can operate year-round. But although it looks very isolated, you still have very good connections with paved road and dirty road, as well as railways, and we are close to deep port, as well as an area where the oil and gas sector is working since many decades, so you can find very good infrastructure and services close to the project. The province is a mining-friendly jurisdiction where we have been working for the last 15 years, but also many other companies are exploring. And we have also the chance to be in a province with good or excellent nuclear experience, because they also have a research nuclear reactor and many other nuclear facilities under development. The project itself, the mineralization, as you could see on the map, there are many airborne radiometric anomalies. That means that there are a lot of uranium on surface. This is typical of a superficial type deposit, mineralization on surface, like those in Australia or Africa, very well known and producers. But when we went deeper in the system back in 2017, we defined it that superficial mineralization was the expression of a blind system related to sandstone-type deposit, similar to those in United States, or as Nico mentioned before, in Kazakhstan, with the difference that Kazakhstan are very deep from surface, so they are in situ recovery deposit. Meanwhile, we are working from surface at this point for the first 50 meters from surface. What that means? That means very low cost for exploration, and in a potential future production that you don't need drilling and blasting, so that's very low cost, potentially economic characteristic. So if we go now with the general model, something that the geologists like to do to measure what is the potential of the deposit that you are looking. We control, and when I say we, BSK control 100% of more than 300,000 hectares, controlling the entire district with geological characteristics similar to those in Kazakhstan. And what that means, that you have a geology that have the chance to, well, prove it in Kazakhstan, to generate several deposits, some of them like Inkai deposit, huge deposit with more than 244 million pounds grading 0.03% uranium. We are just starting the deep exploration of a district of more than 140 kilometers, where the first discovery was Ivana in the southernmost sector, with about 23 million pounds with the same grade, but still with potential in the district to define more deposits, as observed in Kazakhstan. As I mentioned, the first resource delineation, inferred mineral resources, was updated back in 2019 with the preliminary economic assessment presentation, and that means that we have about 23 million pounds and 11.5, this is uranium plus 11.5 million pounds vanadium, which is a good credit for the overall economics of the district. The mineralization is mainly oxidized mineralization on surface, carnotite, a uranium-vanadium mineral as the main ore mineral. Meanwhile, in the primary is coffinite, that is between the grains or coating the pebbles of the sandstone, which we will see it helps later in the recovery. This is the map of the actual resources, the inferred resources. As you can see, the darkness color means the higher grade. This is typical of a sandstone type roll from deposits. We have mineralization for more than 5 kilometers corridor, still open for expansion, something that we expect to do soon with more drilling to the southwest. And as you can see in the main zone, the drilling pattern is very intensive, and we expect to upgrade those minerals soon also. As I mentioned, the recovery is how you recuperate the mineral from the rocks, and because we are in a sediments, sands, or conglomerate, poorly consolidated or unconsolidated, where the mineralization is between the grains in the very fine material or coating those pebbles, you can recover very easily. Easy means low cost in 2 steps. The first step, you do a wet scrubbing and screening. So you take all the fine material between the grains and separate from the pebbles and take out all the coarse material. That means that you reduce your volume to a quarter and increase your grade for almost 4 times. And that pre-concentrate material go into an alkaline leaching processing. That's mean low environmental impact. Again, low environmental mean low cost, to finally have an overall process recovery of 85% for uranium and 53% for vanadium. From the potential operation type, definition, we understand that because we are in sediments from surface down to 25, 30 meters from surface, so, and this is very easy mining, and because we are in sediment with no consolidation, you don't need drilling and blasting, as I mentioned before. So finally, it's like a simple sand quarry. That the idea is to recovering by sector from higher grade to lower grade, and doing the remediation at the same time. So by the end of the mine, you may recuperate the entire district. So with all those numbers, with the resource estimations, with the type of recovery processing, plus the type of operation, we ran a preliminary economic assessment that probably Nico may introduce the numbers to you. Thanks.
Thank you, Guillermo. Yeah, and I guess before I talk about it, the question is, why would we do a preliminary economic assessment after we just announced our first deposit? And really, what we're trying to wrap our head around was, okay, before we continue moving forward with this district, is this a district that's going to be potentially economic in this environment? Is it competitive on a global scale? So we did this PEA study, and what we found was a couple of points that we really focused on. Is number one is the capital cost, the pre-production capital cost. That's what would it cost to put this deposit into production. And we found that it was about $100 million US, plus a $28 million contingency. And that number, we figured, is going to remain relatively constant, because as we continue doing work and uncovering and making additional discoveries, that's not going to change very much, because the costs are going to be fairly fixed. So that's a good number to keep in mind. Now, the second and more relevant number is what would it cost to actually produce a pound of uranium? And what we found, that the cash costs are just over $16 a pound, or just over $18 a pound if you include the all-in sustaining cost. Now, with uranium at that time running at $20, we thought, okay, if this was in production, it looks like this has the potential to be economic. Now, of course, uranium is upwards of $40, but still, we wanted to see, how do we compare on a global scale with other producers out there? And what we did is we plotted this on a chart. And on this chart, you can see the red bar there, which represents the PEA number of Ivana, if it was in production. And all across, going from left to right, are other producers from around the world. And what we see is that if Ivana was in production today, it would rank in the first quartile of the lowest cost producers in the world. Now, when you're starting on a new discovery, this is a great spot to be. As uranium continues to go up, I think we're going to see, that the rest of the price up. It's just going to make the whole operation that much more competitive, that much more profitable, really, and very, very attractive. So, and in fact, it's interesting to note that where Ivana ranks there, all the surrounding mines that are there are all in Kazakhstan. So we are definitely amongst the lowest cost producers in the world. So we've established that. The next thing is, how big can this district get? What's the potential here? And to begin we know what the potential is. Well, we have an idea what if it is like Kazakhstan, it could be upwards of 100, 200 million pounds. But what we've done over the last 15 years that we've been working in this area, we know that there's mineral and uranium occurrences throughout this entire 145-kilometer district. And we've prioritized these targets. And we've honed in, there's number one, which is the Ivana Deposit. As Guillermo pointed out, that deposit in itself is also open for expansion. And that's part of our current drill program that's going to test and expand the size of the deposit. And then moving upwards about 10 kilometers is number 2 and number 3, which are the Ivana Central and Ivana North, respectively. Now, those two targets have a lot of similarities to the Ivana deposit, and they're also part of the current drill program. And number 4 and 5 are also two targets that are all in the surrounding area that we have plans to drill in the upcoming season here. Because if we can put together a mobile processing plant and stay within the $100 million or so capital cost, this could be, has the potential to double, triple, quadruple the size of the current resources that we have in the company, and could become a very attractive and world-class scenario for going into production. And, well, this is a depiction of some of the drill holes for the 4,500-meter drill program that we announced in the spring on the Ivana North and Ivana Central targets. We've completed about 1,600 meters, and I expect that we're going to have results over the next week or two to come out. But at the same time, we did a fundraise a couple of months ago, and the idea is, because as we're getting permits that allow us for doing work on additional targets within this area, we wish to expand the drill program and become a little more aggressive here. So, in conclusion, the Amarillo Grande project is truly a world-class project. It's got very easy access, excellent provincial infrastructure in place, the setting and the characteristics comparable to Kazakhstan. I mean, this is the model to emulate, and this is what makes I think Amarillo Grande and Blue Sky's opportunity very unique compared even to all of our peers. Of course, where there's value already in the project, there's a deposit of just under 23 million pounds of uranium and 11.5 million pounds of vanadium that underpins, some value into the company. The PEA establishes that, yes, this potentially is a viable project. It could be economic in this district, And now with the ongoing drill program, testing, just even testing the small portion, the 20 kilometers surrounding the Ivana deposit, it's got the potential to expand and grow very quickly. And I believe as drill results begin to come in, we're going to see the valuation of our company get revalued by the market, and especially in a rising uranium market. I think Blue Sky is at an inflection point that our market cap potentially is set to grow and to move forward. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody for listening to our presentation. And Campbell, if there are any questions, we're happy to answer them.
Thanks. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Excellent. Thank you. We'll jump in, please. Just find your way to the Ask a Question of Management, and it'll get over to us, and we'll ask the question for you. With that, going to jump in. Thank you very much. What is the surface footprint of the current resource, and what portion does it represent vis-a-vis the whole project area?
Well, besides saying tiny, I'll let Guillermo become a little more technical to answer that.
But the official footprint versus the land package, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, we are the deposit that we have defined it at this point is in an area that represents about 7,000 hectares from the more than 300,000, so it's very tiny. The deposit itself is 1/10 of that, so it's 700 hectares. But it's not that something that you can multiply areas by the size of the district. The potential of the district is from surface to deeper in the system. From the strategic point of view, we are actually focused in the near surface deposit because they are low cost for exploration and have this chance to be, as we could prove at the PEA, to be competitive at actual market condition. But as soon as the price go up, more deeper exploration, it's open. So what you can do from this point is to think that you have more than 140 kilometers where multiple deposits can be discovered there potentially. As you can see in other areas, this is what geologists like to do. Okay, you compare your project with some other project with similar geological conditions and environment, in this case similar to Kazakhstan, and you can see that in this trap zone that we have for 140 kilometers, you can have several deposits being generated there.
Okay, thank you very much. And everyone feel free to share this event, and the link works for both live and for the on-demand replay. Next question. Do you expect your uranium and vanadium recovery numbers to increase in the future?
Guillermo?
Well, we are actually working in more deep or intensive test works that's going to be run again in Saskatchewan Research Council with our master in metallurgic things like Chuck Edward. He has very good experience and he's working on that, trying to, although we already got great results, we are always working, trying to improve and see if we can do it easier or more easy than it actually is, cheaper and safer from the environmental point of view also.
Okay, thank you. Someone messaged in that understands there are two large state-owned nuclear companies from China, China National Nuclear Corp, working with Nucleoelectrica, and to build Argentina's 4th and 5th reactors, and China National Nuclear Corp, owned by the state, will finance and build 2 nuclear power plants, etc. Have they approached you? Are they going to be using a domestic supply? Do they prefer a domestic supply? Seems like a game changer.
Well, I think yes, domestic supply is preferred in Argentina. In fact, there is a law in Argentina which stipulates that if uranium is produced domestically, any nuclear utility must purchase from the domestic supplier as a preferred supplier, but at world prevailing prices.
All right. Are you in communication with any majors on the mining resource side?
Well, we're in communication with many companies, and I'll leave it at that right now.
All right.
Yes.
What do you expect to achieve with this current drill program?
Guillermo?
Okay, we are focusing two fronts now with our program. One is to expand the resources with more exploration. As Nico mentioned, we are actually following a drilling program now in standby, waiting for some permits at 10 and 20 kilometers north of Ivana Deposit, and also working new targets at 5-10 kilometers to the east and probably 15-20 kilometers to the west. This is all the what we can call the brownfield exploration surrounding Ivana. We are also thinking to expand Ivana, but also in the second point is we are trying to move forward the PFS studies. And that means that we are also considering to expand the drilling program at the same deposit in order to improve the category of the mineral resources from inferred to at least indicated, something that don't need much effort because, as you could see in the map, we have an intensive drilling pattern already done in the core zone that it was not classified as indicated resources by the QP person because we were just starting in a new discovery, but we expect that we can easily upgrade to indicated with a really fast infill drilling program.
Thank you very much. Stu?
Yeah, thank you for the update. I just wanted, if you could comment on, some of the news with the Sprott uranium purchases and, what you're seeing and, the causes for finally the positive tick up in the uranium price.
I think with the Sprott uranium being, and other funds being in the market, making purchases from the spot market, what we're seeing is it's beginning to dry up spot market supply so that utilities now are having to draw down on their own current inventory or negotiate new contracts if their loan inventory is low, negotiate new contracts with other uranium mines in order to purchase and to secure supply for uranium. So by doing that, it's having the effect of increasing the price. And it's hard, it's interesting to see that happening. And I'm actually curious to see if there's going to be other financial players coming into the market. And because the uranium market is so small, it has the potential to really spike up the uranium price. I mean, it was about a decade ago that we saw the uranium price reach up to $140. So, and it resulted in just incredible valuations of all uranium exploration and producers.
Yeah, most definitely. And then another question is me on, operating Argentina and, there's been political changes recently and how you're finding, the current political environment working for like drill permits and then, further down the track, any mines being permitted in Argentina recently?
Yeah, it was only not that long ago that we permitted, with a sister company, another silver, lead, zinc project, Chinchillas, up in northern Argentina. So yes, mines are being permitted. Argentina. And what's unique, I think, with the uranium, Argentina has embraced nuclear power as a way of increasing their they're having a safe, secure, and reliable source of energy, and also meeting their Paris Accord carbon targets. But furthermore, where we're operating in Rio Negro, it itself is a uranium province. It actually owns a uranium research facility called INVAP, which is quite well regarded internationally. They do research, and they export small modular reactors, and we're seeing a lot of support in Argentina for our uranium project, both federally and provincially. But beyond that, Argentina has, we've been there for the last 3 decades. We've seen many politicians come and go, but the one constant factor we've always noticed is that support for mining, as it is a very underdeveloped industry in Argentina, and as Argentina requires revenues, it sees the development of a mining industry, including uranium industry, as a critical source of support. So we've seen that support throughout. That's been a constant for us.
Thank you. I'll pass it on to Artie now.
Thank you. As you guys divide the deposit into 2 zones, can you tell us why is this and what are the differences between these 2 zones?
Guillermo, you take that, please.
Mean 2 zones, the Ivana deposit was the deposit that gave us the first deep understanding of the geological model, to understand what we were looking on surface and how it looks down in the system. We understand that this kind of deposit can be generated or being generated in several places along this trap zone of 140 kilometers. The system would be similar. The differences could be if it's on surface, very well oxidizes, or if deeper in the system, so it's a blind deposit and it's all preserved. But in general terms, we expect to see similar deposits to Ivana. The difference is that where you find or not the deposit, on surface or deeper in the system, or at the bottom of the top of the basement. That's all subtle changes from the geological point of view, but in general terms, they are sandstone-type deposits.
And as you keep drilling, do you think you are adding more ponds to upper or the lower level, or like both?
Well, that's what I'm mentioning. In the upper level of the mineralization, now understand better your first question. The upper part of the deposit means the area that is more oxidized. Now understood. I have not I was thinking about different targets. You are talking about the same deposit that have an upper part, mention it as a subtype of mineralization, and the second part as the second, or deeper. The upper part is more oxidized because it's on surface on the first 5 meters, where the primary minerals are almost entirely oxidized. So this is very easy to lixiviate, is more carnotite, have more vanadium. The deeper part, which is the same deposit but in the more preserved, still is oxidized. We define it that 90% of the deposit is oxidized in general terms, and probably is less vanadium present, but higher grades. So the differences between the upper part or the deeper part is the exposure to oxidation. And this will be something that probably we are prepared to see all around the district. Depending where you define a mineralization, need to understand if you are in the upper part or you are seeing more the primary and more preserved mineralization. I think that now answered the entire question.
Yes, thank you. And is there a correlation between the vanadium and uranium, where you find high uranium grades, you find high vanadium grades too?
No, directly. You find more vanadium in the more oxidized part because vanadium is related with the oxidation processing in the upper part. And when you go in the deeper part, the primary mineralization They are not vanadates, as the minerals in the upper part. They are coffinite, so you have less vanadium, but much higher grade. So it's compensated. You have more vanadium and in the upper part, probably lower grade in uranium, but as soon as you go deeper, you have less vanadium, but much higher uranium grade.
Thank you. And as you try to expand the resource, how likely your proposed development plan can change, and so the capital intensity of the project could change as you expand the resource?
Well,
as we, yeah, go ahead.
Probably Nico, yeah. No, Nico,
yeah,
go ahead, you.
Okay. Yeah, right now we're in an exploration phase. And it's actually a very exciting phase right now, because this is the phase that we're going to see the most company growth. I think as we continue to drill out all these targets, and as the results begin to come in and we begin to identify additional deposits, I think the company's market cap is going to get revalued drastically. And then, as Guillermo mentioned, the next phase, of course, is going into a pre-feasibility study stage. Now, these studies typically take about 10 months to a year. Capital, and it's a little more capital intensive than the drilling for exploration, probably in the $10 to $15 million range. So that's something that we would have to fund at a little later time, probably in 6 months' time. We'd be looking at doing that. In terms of going, then based on the results of the pre-feasibility study stage, that's when a production decision is made. And it's also important to note that while we could probably take this into production, we're not producers. We're explorationists. We're pretty good explorationists. I think we've got one of the best teams around. And I think this is where the conversations with some of the major companies that are out there that are proven producers would begin to take place. I'd like, it's a decision, of course, that's going to be made later, whether we sell the whole thing out, or we still parcel out parts of it, or whether we joint venture, what the decision is. But I think we would feel much more comfortable having a seasoned major producer moving this forward to production, and we can focus on the exploration, which we know what we're doing there.
Thank you. Campbell?
Sure. Thank you very much, Artie. I have a few more questions, and I think we'll move to close. How do you assess the risks and impact of potential instabilities in the Argentinian economy, like strong currency or depreciation?
Well, we've seen currency depreciations in Argentina, over the last 30 years. We've seen currency crises. I believe it affects mostly our team and the people in Argentina more than it affects us, because for us, the prices, are all based in U.S. dollars. I don't think it has much an effect there. In Argentina, of course, we adjust our wages and schedules to make sure that everybody that works for us gets compensated accordingly. I don't think that that's going to have any effect. I don't think that takes away the fact that as this project, if it was going to go into production, the taxes and royalties that would be due to the government are attractive, and the government, would want to see these revenues coming in. So we're continuously have been seeing support, no matter what party is in charge in Argentina. So I don't think that that's much of a risk for us at this point.
If uranium prices continue to rise, can you speed anything up towards getting to production, or it's steady as she goes, no matter what?
Well, if uranium prices rise, then our share price would also rise, and it probably would allow us to raise additional funds. Maybe we could double up or triple up our exploration efforts, and maybe speed that process up, and then the rest will pretty well takes the time that it needs to take. It's a regulatory approval. We're fortunate that we're in Argentina. That's a nuclear country. All the regulations for handling nuclear materials are already in place, so we don't have to wait for the country to implement new laws or the International Atomic Energy to come in to help structure the country to set up a regulatory regime. It's there. I think it would be a relatively quick process, and I think it's just this initial phase here that I think we could truly speed up and intensify.
Okay, thank you. Can you update us on listing requirements in the U.S.? You have a QB. I understand there will be some SEC policy changes or evolvements regarding listing requirements. Have you given any thought to that, or tell us what those issues are?
Yeah, I think we do have a QB listing right now. We're in the process of considering upgrading that to a QX listing. And as our company grows and becomes more, as our market cap grows and we start to meet thresholds for higher listing criteria, we would definitely seek those out. So I'm not that concerned about that.
Okay. Where do you see Blue Sky in 5 years? We've sort of tiptoed around that, but what would you like to be doing in 5 years, Nico? What's the blue sky of Blue Sky?
The blue sky of Blue Sky. I'd love to see Blue Sky up in the blue skies there, in production in Argentina, supplying uranium, and then our shareholders all happily, in sipping pina coladas in Hawaii and in the Caribbean. No, I mean seriously, I do. I think I see Blue Sky in production in the next 5 years, or at least very close to it.
And if you could circle back regarding timeline, production decision, commissioning, we've covered a lot, so maybe do you have a visual on that?
Well,
can you create a visual for us?
Yeah. While our exploration continues for the next, 4 to 6 months, where we uncover and make new, finding new deposits in the surrounding area where our Ivana deposit is. In the meantime, we kick off the pre-feasibility study, so that's about another year to go. And then if that feasibility study were to be positive, production decision probably a couple of years. So maybe in about 3 years' time, 3.5 years' time, we could be in a position where Blue Sky could actually become a producer. It's not a very complex situation to put this into production either.
Okay, just about over. What environmental studies have you completed or are working on so far on the project in order to get permits? And what's the general climate in your province in Australia? I know it's Argentina. I know it's province by province. So
yeah. Well, we don't do anything in Argentina without having an environmental permit. Even to go out to do geophysics or rock sampling, you need to have a permit with the environment, and we're definitely complying with all of that. I know that we're doing a larger baseline environmental study right now. Maybe Guillermo could add more detail about that.
Oh, yes, we already started the initial studies for the construction of the baseline from the environmental point of view, with the weather station installed in the area, monitoring the water, the air, the fauna and flora, and all those kind of things are already moving. We, as Nico mentioned, every 2 years we have to fulfill a new update on the environmental reports. That for that you need to complete all that information, as well as superficial studies from the archaeological point of view, paleontological point of view, social point of view, and we are completing all that information all the time and trying to maintain a very good communication with authorities and community in the places where we are working, for sure.
And if I can add, that's, this is an area where we're very sensitive, and we like to not just meet what the expectations are, but we aim to exceed the local requirement expectations.
Excellent. Thank you. Want to thank everyone for tuning in. Please share your feedback, highlighting a feedback box there. And also when you leave, you'll be queued for feedback and also in follow-up emails. So a few lines, a thumbs up, anything gets to management. quickly. I'm going to pass it back to Nico and Guillermo to close us. And thank you, everyone, for attending. Go ahead.
Thanks, Campbell. Thank everyone for attending. I hope we've been able to answer most of your questions regarding Blue Sky. I think, and I do hope that you consider Blue Sky as an investment. I think we've got a project here that's really unique on a global scale, and we're at a phase right now. Within a backdrop of a rapidly rising uranium market, we're in a phase where we're drilling, we're looking for new deposits. There's drill results coming out in the next week or so. I believe we're at this inflection point where we're going to see Blue Sky beginning to be really revalued, and I hope that you consider Blue Sky as an investment. I think we have the potential to really live up to our name.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'm going to keep the session on a little bit if people want to fill out that feedback form. But gentlemen, thank you for your time today. And what's the best way to reach Blue Sky? In fact, I'm going to put this slide up. There we go. info@blueskyuranium.com. And first point of touch would be Sean Perger, many of you know. So with that, thank you, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Great. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks.